good evening, and welcome to the month of October. This is a very special month around the world because it is recognized as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so this month we will be talking about breast cancer. My name is Dr. Ebby Shera Jackson, and I want to say welcome to Share Your Story, another exciting episode brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center. Welcome to our listening audience here in Nassau, here in the Bahamas, here in the Family of Islands, and all around the world. We want to welcome you to this evening's segment of Share Your Story. Breast cancer is a disease that impacts so many in our country and worldwide. Here in the Bahamas, because of our per capita, we are listed as having the highest rate breast cancer worldwide. And so it's a topic that we have to constantly keep in the forefront of our minds because every day in our country, someone is being diagnosed, and some age start as early as teenagers in their 14s and later in years. And so breast cancer is a disease that impacts mainly women here in our country now. There are some men who have been diagnosed with it and have dealt with it, and some probably dealing with it. But here in the Bahamas, women are being diagnosed on a constant basis with breast cancer. Now, it's a disease that presents itself with so many different symptoms. And if you talk to women, they would have their stories to tell and tell you how did they find out. Some stories are interesting, others, it would mind-boggling and would blow your mind. But as always, Share Your Story is a show that highlights and brings on individuals who are willing and able to talk about their journey of whatever disease they may be dealing with. And so this evening we have two very special, beautiful ladies who will be coming into the studio and talking about their journey with breast cancer. So listen up, let your friends, family members tag them and let them know that the show is on, it's live, and it's going to be exciting. And so I am going to welcome into my studio in a moment two ladies, and here they are. Ladies, good evening and welcome to Share Your Story.
Good evening, Dr. Jackson.
Good evening.
Yes, we have beautiful ladies Sonia Hopkins and Patrell Miller. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
You had a good day?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start with you, Patrell. I want you to tell our listening audience who is Patrell Miller? What does Patrell do? What is Patrell life all about?
hmm That's always the $1,000,000 question, right? We never really like to talk about ourselves too much, but Trell Miller is born and bred in the Bahamas, born right here in Nassau, and grew up here with my parents and my five siblings. I am what my parents like to say the last button on Abraham's coat. So I am the sixth of, of six children. And so I am, everybody's little
You're the
girl,
baby,
still little,
you're the
yeah,
pet.
little baby, exactly. I am a wife of almost 19 years. This month actually
Okay.
will make 19 years that we would have been married.
It
The
just seemed
mother,
like yesterday, Patrell.
right?
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. The mother to two wonderful boys, 10 and 9. And as far as my professional life goes, I have worked in the offshore financial sector for 20 plus years.
Okay.
Half of that has been in the field of compliance and anti money laundering. Currently, I am working in the private banking area of a Swiss bank, and I advise relationship managers on onboarding their clients and how to successfully do that with utilizing my compliance background. So, in a nutshell, that's me. But most importantly, above and beyond all of those hats, I'm a lover of Jesus. I'm a Jesus follower, and I love Him with all my heart. And I am really wanting to thank you, Abby, for this opportunity to have this platform tonight. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you and welcome. And then to this other beautiful lady, Lady Sonia. Sonia,
Yes.
tell us who is Sonia.
Well, Sonia was born and raised on the island of Cat Island.
Okay,
Um,
you rake and scrape gal.
yes. So I'm an island girl. I'm an island girl. Um, but I'm a single mom as well. But I have one son. He's he will be actually 20 on the 18th of this month.
Okay,
Um, yes, like I said, I'm a single mom. I work at Lysekey at a private home. So I'm a homekeeper,
you
and I
businesswoman,
take care of
Sonia, you got your
everybody's
hands
needs.
in several things, don't you?
Yes, yes. Actually, I started in the cosmetology field, and I do work on the side. You know, I just currently enrolled in PVPI, taking up aesthetics. So I'm expanding, um, and it's pretty good. So
Sonia,
I'm Dr. Debbie.
you didn't tell us about that other life. Sonia is a runner, so please let us know tell us a bit about that.
Yes. Well, I'm a marathon runner. I started about five five years ago. Just started just working out regular, and one of the runners actually saw me one morning running on the sand, and they were like, "Oh, we would love to have you in our club." And she said, "Why don't you give it a try?" And from that day, I was running. So I love to run. I love to work out. I'm physically fit. I love to eat healthy things. So that's what I'm all about. Just
Yeah,
maintaining that.
I just want everybody to know Sonia is a very strong runner and an excellent runner. That's how I met
Thank
Sonia
you. Thank you.
through our running club. And I used to see her running up and down on the sand. So she's an
Mm.
avid runner. And I've known Patrell most of her life,
That's
actually.
right.
Yeah. So it's good to have both of you ladies in the show this evening. Now, we're here to talk about breast cancer. And for some, they see it as a dreaded disease. A patient said to me yesterday, the big C word. Um, so we're here to talk about that. And let me start with you, Sonia. Um, you were diagnosed with breast cancer when?
I was diagnosed with breast cancer last year, February.
And how did you find out?
I found out actually, my elder sister and I and my nieces, we were all laying in the bed one morning, just got up and just talking jokes. And I was laying on my back. I was laying in the bed on my back, and I just took my hand and just quickly just run it through my chest. I was laying down, so I did this. When I did this, I felt my hand bump something inside the breast cavity, and I right away I knew it shouldn't be there because it was so profound. The lump was so profound, and I didn't tell none of them. I just jumped up, got ready. I'm going to work, and I went straight to Fort Terrace Diagnostic
So
Center
it got your attention immediately then. I mean, the fact that you
immediately.
felt that like that. And did you feel anything before that time?
No, not at all. Because we are taught to when we go in the shower to do this. I actually when I examine myself in the shower, I don't think I ever really, or maybe I didn't follow instructions properly. But I very rarely go like this, but I'll just feel at the bottom like this because we always thinking about the armpits and the
Right.
I forget the name that hook up to the armpits. So I always went like this. I never really took the time to like do like this. So yeah, so that could be, you know,
And you
big
got up
showy chest.
immediately and went to Fort Terrace.
Immediately, I got ready. They didn't even know where I was going. I said, I'm going to work. I head straight to Fort Terrace. And like I said, I knew it was something that shouldn't be there. And, but, to my greatest fear, to make
Wow.
it
And
fair.
for those who are listening, Fourth Terrace is a diagnostic center, mind you. It's a place that you go to do scans. And so she jumped up and went to the diagnostic center immediately.
Mm.
That's the first time I've heard it like that.
Yes.
Patrell, tell us how you found out.
Well, Sonia and I have somewhat of a similar story, actually. I'm listening with, amazement. I discovered, well, at the time, I didn't think I discovered anything, but it was in the bed as well. I was, as far as I recall, awakening one morning and I turned over. I was on my back and I turned over on my side, on my right side. And by turning over, I felt something hard, not with my hand, but just physically by laying there. And so I just felt it and I said, this feels like something. But I didn't, days went on, what have you. I kept, feeling around and, thinking, this is just probably a cyst because I, have the fibrous breast that they say tissue. And so a few days went on and I asked my husband to feel. He said, honey, this is definitely something. This is not normal there. And interestingly enough, actually, Maria show has been very instrumental in my journey to diagnosis because it was on the show that you did last year with two of the ladies that talked of their story that prompted me after the exact night after that show to pay a bit more attention and to take this seriously and prompted me to call and to go in as well. And also similarly to Sonia, I did not go to my doctor. In fact, I called in and I told him because I had gotten a form to go in and do my annual for that year. Because of COVID and everything, I did not go. And so I said, I'm not going to waste my time to go into him for him to tell me I have to go anyway. So I'm just going to call and tell him, send me the form again and let me go directly to Fourth Terrace and have the mammogram. And that's what I did.
Okay. It's interesting, though, how you both felt something at that point, but all along you weren't feeling anything. Eh? And it's amazing how cancer cells grow. They're there in the body growing, and then when they start to protrude or to accumulate, then all of a sudden you start to feel changes. Okay, Patrell, when you went in, you had your mammogram done. What happened after that?
Right. So I had the mammogram done. This was November of 2020. And I've been quite used to in the last several years, because of the dense breast tissue, to have an ultrasound. So when the technician told me I had to have an ultrasound, I was not,
It wasn't
surprised by
alarmed.
that because
Right.
exactly I was used to that. And so the same day I had the ultrasound, and we know how it is when we feel that they're taking a while, going over the same area over and over again. But because I'd already felt something, I knew she was examining, you know. And she took a while. And then after she was finished, she said, Mrs. Miller, I would just, like you to wait for a few minutes. I would like the doctor on staff to speak with you. And now that was a first. And so, even then though I was not alarmed. I was still in and of myself convinced that it was a cyst. And so I said, fine. And the doctor actually called me on my cell phone um, and said, Mrs. Miller, the scans have showed, that there is some irregularity that is not consistent with the cyst. We just want to, to be safe, on the safe side, to have you do a biopsy. Um, and so I said, okay, this is, completely not what I was expecting. They actually wanted me to do it that day. But the place was so crowded that I said, I'll call back and make an appointment. And so that's what I did. 3 days, that was the 16th of November, 2020. And 3 days later, I
Now,
was after the
at that
biopsy.
point, though, what is going through your mind?
Abby, to be quite honest, I was completely at peace. I really didn't go down the road of could this be breast cancer? I was still thinking they're going to find that it's yes.
It's okay.
I was
Yeah.
not alarmed. I went back in for the biopsy 3 days later, and the waiting period was probably the hardest part of waiting. And even actually during that 3 week, it took 3 weeks to get the results. At the second week, the doctor's office called and said that they had the results, and it turned out to be an error. So that kind of made me even more nervous. I'm like, okay, I was already steeling myself to hear what it could be. And anyway, it was another week's wait before I got the official call of the results. But to be quite honest, um, the Lord was preparing me for it. And this is a part of my story that I share, because this is, the way that He set it up for me. The Lord told me the night after my birthday, which is the 25th of November, on the 26th of November, in my devotion time, I felt that the Lord was confirming to me that He would allow this to be a malignant diagnosis. And so I was actually prepared to receive the call.
For the news.
That it was, yes, I was prepared, even though the reality of it really did take a toll on that day. When it really hit home to hear those words, was a different story, even though I knew deep down that was the answer that was coming. Yes.
Sonia, you went to
Yes,
Fort
okay.
Terrace that morning, and then what happened next?
So I went in and I, I waited in line. Lady took me in the back and she did the ultrasound because I think it was in February, so October 2020, the year before. I make sure I get the dates right. I had I had a mammogram and I believe an ultrasound that October. So now we coming over the next year, which is just February around the corner. So he said, "Well, I'll do an ultrasound because you just had a mammogram." So right away they did the ultrasound where they, put the jelly on it. It's like a, when you're having a baby. But everything was on the screen. I mean, like clean as day. Like I'm looking at the screen, and she's rubbing and going over the breast, and there you go. Like I mean, like just right there. I was like, wow. So she said, "Don't be alarmed. It could be benign. Don't worry. You just have to go in and take a sample and send it away. And she was very encouraging. And like Miss Miller said, at the end of it all, so fast forward and took the test, and the test come back, and of course this is cancerous. But um, while I was at Fort Terrace, and I know this particular young lady would mind, and I keep procrastinating and I keep promising to go back there. Like Miss Miller, I didn't. It hit me when I found out that it was cancer at the center. Me one, my no friends, no boyfriend, no husband, just me one. Being tough, I can handle this. I'm a big girl. Whatever it is, I'll deal with it. I have my family, and my sisters and my nieces who love me to pieces. So I got this, but at this time they didn't know yet. So the nurse who was there, I'm sure, I don't know if I should call her name, but we're talking all in good faith. And I'm sure she would mind if she's watching this, Miss Jennifer. But Miss Jennifer, if you're watching, I'm coming. I'm gonna get you. I'm coming there. You're gonna see me. It just hasn't had time. Time is just going so fast. The thank her, really. And he came to me, and when it sunk in, when they told me what it was, and it sunk in, like she came to me and she hugged me because she worked behind the receptionist, and she hugged me and she said, she's like, God will never put more on you than you can bear. And she comforted me, she's like, don't cry. Like that was the first time I cried. And I don't think I ever cried again about finding out my results and finding out what I would have to go through to get better. And that her encouraging words made me so strong. I will never forget. I could actually sit here talking to me. And I think God have her there to speak into women's lives who come through those doors that is facing this disease, this killer, and to encourage them. I really think so. So I just thank Miss Jennifer for that. And like I said, from there, I never felt sorry for myself. I never asked God, why me? Why not me? And I look at it as something that I needed to go through. And in different areas of my life, it's like, it might sound crazy, but progress. It's like you go through things in life and it makes you a better person. You become a better version. I'm a better version of the old Sonia who didn't have cancer before. Now she has it, had it, and now I'm a better version of that. So it's like it took me through steps in life now where I'm at a point where nothing phases me anymore. It made me stronger, and now I'm here on this show speaking to other. Never dream of it. Never thought. I'm a shy person, so to go in front of, and I'm comfortable home, but just to know that you're facing a world on social media, on television. I really don't like too much television. It's a blessing to just let other young women know that, hey, this is beatable. Don't cry, and just thank God, and He'll take you through it, whatever the outcome is.
Um, so much has been said from you both. I think getting a cancer diagnosis for anyone, it catches your attention immediately. It changes your life immediately.
Mm.
Yes, we cry, we break down because, it's like, what? This is, any life threatening disease will get your attention and immediately. And because we know and see how persons have gone through it, many have succumbed. We're still here to tell the story, thank God. It's hard to be the same going forward, because if you, I don't want to say beat the disease because you can't beat it. If the Lord allows you to live, if He heals you, if He brings you through, you have so much more to be thankful for, so much to offer people. And as I say to persons, you are not going through this for you. You're going through this to encourage and support somebody else. Because every day a woman in our country is being diagnosed. And so many women don't want to talk about it, don't want to share. They're going through it alone, trying to keep it a secret. And we all know, let's begin to talk about the changes. Betrell, you were diagnosed. Now you have to start treatment. What was your treatment like?
Okay, my treatment plan was actually starting with chemotherapy first um, to shrink the tumor or eradicate it, was the thought process there, and then followed by surgery, um, bilateral mastectomy. And because I'm HER2 positive, I am also on the immunotherapy drug Herceptin, or was, for 12 for a year. Now I was just diagnosed, like I said, in actually December 4th of 2020. So I have completed already 6 rounds of the chemotherapy. Um, and actually, I had an interesting experience, I think, that I haven't heard from anyone locally. But at the third uh, round of my chemo, my doctor had indicated from the get-go that at the third round, at the end of the third round, he would want to do a scan to see how I was progressing, and then he would determine from there where to go. So that was done, and at that point, it was determined, or the scans showed that my tumor was not responding to the chemo the way that he would have anticipated it to. And so we were at a crossroads at that point of he wanted to change the chemo to a stronger chemo, or even to have me do the mastectomy at that point. And so my husband and I found ourselves at a crossroads, like I said, of what to do. And even the doctor he expressed that he was surprised. He was surprised that it did not shrink it more than it did, or eradicate it. And so we determined at that point that we would switch gears, and I would complete my treatments in the United States. And so that's what I've done. I did the first 3 here, and at that point we moved my treatment to Tampa. And so while I was in Tampa, the doctor was not in agreement that I should switch treatments. The protocol, was established that I should complete the full 6 rounds and then determine at the end of that. And so that's what I did, completing that same regimen of medication. After the chemo, I did the double mastectomy and the partial lymph node dissection. And it was the pathology from that revealed that I did not have a pathological complete response to the chemo. And so at that point, we switched my treatment to, instead of the Herceptin treatment, to another immunotherapy drug. And so I'm currently still doing those treatments. I've completed 4 of them, and it's 12 in total, so I have 8 more to go of those treatments. And followed by radiation. Well, not followed, because I'm actually about to start radiation in 2 weeks' time. And
Okay,
so
we'll come back to side effects and symptoms. But Sonia, what was your treatment like?
Okay, some of what Ms. Miller said, but my treatment was chemo for 12 cycles. Finished the 12 cycles, started the Herceptin. Well, at least the Herceptin is for a year. So I think I have one more. I have one more treatment of Herceptin. I thank God for that. But it was, everything went pretty much smoothly. Well, of course, the side effects of chemo. But yeah, 12 cycles, and I think I have one more treatment with the Herceptin.
What were your side effects like, Sonia? Did you have side effects? Any symptoms? Anything?
Yes.
What were they like?
Lost. My taste went. I can taste nothing. I was eating like 20 ghost pepper just to get some taste in my mouth.
Wow.
That's how like everything had to be spicy. And when my taste started to come back later, and I tried to eat a real pepper, like my mouth was on fire, and they were like, my nieces and my sisters were like, you were eating like all this pepper, like, and you can't, just a touch. So, it takes away your taste, your smell. For me, nausea at times, being very nauseated at times. And then I slept, like I was sleeping a lot. But I didn't have any where it made me so ill, like to have to go back to the doctor and say this wasn't working or that wasn't working. So, those symptoms was, I think, the worst. And also, I'm having it now, hot flashes. The chemo, it changes your body temperature. Like, oh, I'm hot. Like 1 minute you're hot.
Yep.
And then you're cold.
It induces menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah, it induces menopause.
And mine is still going, like it's so intense. Every hour it lasts maybe for a minute or two. It'll go and it'll come and it'll go and it'll come. So it's just a roller coaster with that. But I won't complain. I will take it, other than some of the other side effects. But those were the 4 main side effects that I experienced.
What about hair loss?
Yes, definitely. My hair is going up. Yes, I lost all my hair. I had all my brows, all my everything, all the hair goes. Yeah, definitely the hair loss, for sure.
What about you, Patrell? What sort of symptoms you experienced?
Very similar to Sonia. The bad taste in the mouth, definitely. The metal taste, nothing, tastes right. So unable to really eat as you would like to. I also had nausea, a lot of bad feelings. Thank God I didn't have
What about
much
vomiting
vomiting.
and things like
No,
that?
no, I
Yeah.
didn't have much vomiting. I can remember probably once, maybe twice, that I vomited, but I didn't have much of that at all. Also, I had rashes. I did have a breakout, several breakouts. Um, that actually, at one point, my treatment had to be the dosages had to be reduced to try and balance out the rashes that I was getting, as well as obviously losing the hair. Lost every inch of hair on my body as well. And so those were the main, oh, and neuropathy, the numbness in my fingers and toes.
Oh,
And that's
any
still ongoing
blackness of the
actually.
toes and fingers? Anything like that?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
blackness
Oh
in the
yeah.
fingernails and
Mm-hmm.
also
Yeah.
blackness in the soles of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. I just
Those
had the fingernail.
fingernails.
Hmm.
Those drugs do take its toll on your body, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
Over
it really
time.
does. Hmm.
But if you look at both of you today, people wouldn't think, hey, this is what they actually went through, you know? So for persons who are listening and they're afraid of chemotherapy because of what others have said, please don't let that deter you from taking it if that is what your doctor is recommending. Let me ask, did any persons recommend to you guys no chemotherapy, try diet, natural foods, or try eating certain things? Did any of you experience that sort of recommendation from anyone?
No, actually, not directly. Actually, I went down that road personally.
Mm,
Where I wanted to explore, at least to learn more about what has been the success rates as far as diet is concerned. So I was really the one to approach my doctors about that, and also trying to do my own research and reading. But that was quickly uh, shut down, not only by my doctors but by my husband. But I was really open to the prospect of it. In fact, actually, I think to be honest, I was more so, and I am still a proponent of both. And so it wasn't so much that I wanted to do the nutritional aspect of things solely without the conventional drugs, but I also appreciate and I am still strongly a believer in the things that we eat. Our diet plays a major role, and so I decided very early on to combine the two.
So true.
what about you, Sonia? Did anybody advocate or say to you, hey, try the nutritional route as opposed to taking chemotherapy?
No, no one actually. No,
Because you
but
were a runner, I mean, a fitness person, and
and I was I was and I'm still fortunate enough to have a sister. My elder sister runs plant-based soup kitchen. Can I
okay.
plug in Lily's soup kitchen if she's watching?
Mm-hmm.
And she cooks natural. She just cooks soup, natural plant-based nutritious soup. And at the time when I got my surgery, I got most of my food from her. It was just plant-based soup, pumpkin soup, anything that grows on the ground. She made soup. She still runs her plant-based soup and have a lot of women now who is on a health journey, with switching their diets and trying to get their health under control by, sticking to the plant-based food system. So I thank God for her that at that time I was able to get this nutritious food that feeds myself. And I think that's one of the things that helped me got back so fast into my activity. And my doctor was like, 'cause every time I go to her, she would be, I'm sorry, how are you? Like, she had this look like, how are you? Like she was expecting me not to be feeling the way I felt because every time, and my nurse too, how you doing, Sonia? And I'm like, I'm doing great. And I just felt beside the sides of her. I just mentally and physically, I felt great. Like, okay, I'm having the nails and the hair and the taste loss and all this other stuff, but I still felt great. And I truly believe it's attributed to the plant-based food that I was eating all this time because it really helps feed yourself. You know, the food feed yourself and you know, nurse the good cells, get you, you know, so I thank God for that. And I'm glad that I made the decision to also have a double mastectomy done. And, you know, I have no regret. I have no regret.
Um, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's going through cancer again. And she had the first breast removed and she kept the other one. And cancer came back, not in that breast, but in the chest wall of the area where they removed the first breast. So we were talking, and she said, I'm going to have the other breast removed. I said, what are you holding on to that for? I said, knowing your history, it has come back, why are you still attached to it? You know, and she
Yeah.
laughed. She was like, are you serious? I said, listen, there are some decisions we as women have to make when you reach a crossroads. And I know so many women who cancer came back later in life. They may have had a lump earlier. The doctor said, just remove the lump and you do treatment or whatever. Only to find out later in life, I know of somebody in their 80s who the cancer came back. And so she's now doing a double mastectomy. But that is a real conversation women have to have with their doctors and with their spouse and whomever in terms of should you remove the breast. Now, knowing our history here in the Bahamas, where breast cancer is so rampant, and I suppose it all depends on the size of the lump, the location, and everything like that. Let me ask each of you, is there any history, family history of cancer in your immediate family that you not, we can't say immediate, but in your family, because 3-4 generations, you kind of have to look back to really think about. Patrell?
Not in my immediate family and not in close family that I am aware of. Like you say, it can be far back, but I'm not aware of any cases. No.
And what about you, Sonia?
Not in my immediate family, no.
Yeah. And we're saying that cancer is rampant in our population and women who supposedly don't know of any family history. But I keep telling people our genetic pool is so small that somehow we are all connected. And if we could go back a few generations in our families and know what the medical history was, we probably would be surprised to know what existed back then. But yeah, every day. And none of you tested BRCA positive, did you?
No,
No.
No.
And see, yeah. It's not common per se in women who have the BRCA gene, but the cancer is common in women who supposedly have no history or know of no history of breast cancer. So, what does that say to us as Bahamian women? We have to be proactive. We have to be doing self examinations. We have to listen to our bodies. I know of persons who did not feel any lump. Both of you were fortunate in that you felt something and you reacted and responded. But I know of a lot of cases where women don't feel anything, and by the time they're diagnosed, it's so far advanced. But as a woman, we as a female, you really have to be in tune and connected with your body and trying to know what is normal and what may not be normal. And it's not just for breast cancer, it's pretty much for everything around here now. When you start to feel something strange or something not right, pay attention to it. Pay attention. Now, Patrell, you said that you're now preparing yourself for radiation and you will also be finishing your chemo drugs throughout the rest of this year. Since you were diagnosed and to where you are now, what advice would you give to persons who are listening to you at this point in time?
Well, to piggyback off of what you just said, I mean, it all starts, I think, the foundation of it is knowing our bodies, knowing our, in the case of breast cancer, knowing our breasts, knowing what is normal for you, knowing, the shape of your breasts, the size of it. And also, it's very crucial, like you said, not everyone feels a lump. And it's not always, exhibited by a lump. It can be the change in texture, change of, inverted nipple. So know these things. And um, breast self examination is also important. Now, I would admit that I was not a frequent breast self examiner. I didn't do it monthly. But I would tell women, today that, make that a part of your monthly regimen to after your cycle, do your monthly exam of your breast. So that's the key. That's the key I would say is know your bodies. If at some point, having gone through what I am now going through, still going through the journey, I won't be completed my treatments until May of next year, God willing. Um, Being faced with a cancer diagnosis, and if any lady out there is faced with it or will be faced with it, I would say jump on the situation right away. I was diagnosed on the 4th of December, and on the 4th of December, I was into my surgical oncologist office. That's just how quickly that I wanted to, get the process started. Yes, it will be a devastating news to receive, but after you have cried that out and processed that, get it out, but don't allow it to keep you back from acting, because the faster you act, the better your chances are. It can be the difference between, life and death, basically, depending on where you are um, on the scale. So just push through that fear, and seek out the doctor's opinion. We are not medical. I'm not a medical doctor, and most of us aren't. So go to the professionals and find out, what your exact situation is. And God, hopefully, it won't be cancer, but you can't take it for granted that it's not. So be proactive.
Sonia, how did your family respond to your news? Because you went by yourself.
Yes, I did. Um, well, my family, nobody really, well, I have one niece who broke down and cried when I told her. She cried a lot. But it was somber. That's the best way to describe it, somber, because, once family members hear the word cancer, cancer sort of have like a death sentence on the extension of it.
Mm,
So when you tell someone or tell family members that love you that, listen, I have cancer, I think immediately they think you're going to die. That's just the stigma cancer has to its name. And my mom was somber about it, but everybody was supportive. Everybody was supportive. That's the important thing, that you have a family structure, that family really, you know, be sensitive about it, um, and not really like, oh God, you're gonna die. Like just to be a support system to you in with your treatments, and just being positive around you. That's important. You can't have family members coming around, they speaking negative, and then you have this one positive. So I thank God for the positivity, the prayers of my mom and my sisters, and just being a small knit family makes it, even better, because you see it, you see everyone all the time, and that made the process even better, even smoother for me. Not to be stressed out, not to think of, well, I won't be able to do this or do that, or you know, everybody chipped in, and I was helped through all of this. So, kudos to my family.
How did your son handle your diagnosis, Sonia?
Well, my son, um, he, boys, you have one boy now. I don't know if your boy is like my boy. Like I said, he's 19. And they don't talk a lot. Boys tend to try to be macho, You only find out how they feel, like in conversations later. They will talk about how they feel. you know, when you first tell them or going through your treatment and stuff. But he dealt with it pretty good, I must say. I must say he have his down moments even now when I guess when he reminisce and think about things, he would say, "Mommy, this, mommy, X, Y, Z." But um, overall, he dealt with it pretty good.
Patrell, how did your husband and sons handle your diagnosis and your treatment and observing you going through the changes?
Honestly, as far as my husband is concerned, he is my rock, my earthly rock. And truly, actually, he was the one on the day I was diagnosed from when I called him right after hanging up from the doctor, because actually my doctor called me on the phone to give me the news. And so once I called my husband, he was the one that got the ball rolling in terms of setting up the appointment with the oncologist. And that's how he's been from day one, and by my side, setting up, assisting me with whatever I needed. He's traveling with me every couple of weeks when we have to go back, and so I can't ask for a better support system as far as he's concerned. He's never shown. I know for a fact that as much as I am going through this journey, and which is, yes, a journey of cancer, but it's also primarily a journey of faith. He's going through a journey of faith as well. And I know that the Lord has prepared him for this time as well and strengthened him, um, through other things that we've been through, prepared both of us for this journey together. And so he has never faltered or wavered or been, shown any fear, pride, or anything in terms of like despair and being afraid.
He
My
probably
son,
didn't want to show it to you publicly, but I'm
well,
sure as I talked to him, he had his moments privately.
well, yeah, you get that information for me, that Abby, but I have not seen it. And so I guess the Lord has strengthened him to the point that he knows that he needs to be that strong, that strength for me. As far as my sons are concerned, uh, we took
How
a,
did they handle the changes? Looking at you and saying, "Mommy is changing."
I think that me losing my hair was probably I wouldn't say the worst, because they have been so resilient. And I thank God for that. The grace of God has really been shown, and how strong they have been, even surprising to me. And so I think when I lost my hair, in fact, I had lost most of it, and I let my husband shave the rest of it off bald. Um, and I think that day, they didn't cry, but I could see the look in their eyes of, just, sadness and a little concern, but they have really been really strong throughout this. I think the next hardest thing on them has been the constant travel, because we do travel quite a bit and have to leave them behind oftentimes with family members, and that's been a little tough on them, but still they are handling quite well.
That is excellent to hear. It brings back memories. Yes, we all have boys, and I know for
Yes.
mine that look, that hair, boys and
Hmm.
hair. Yeah, when I lost my hair, my son said, "Mommy, please don't ever come out with a bald head." No, 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 no. So I had to oblige him for that period of time.
Hmm.
But a lot of times, Sonia's son was older, so he probably could handle the change and understand it a bit more than if with you, Patrell, having
Hmm.
younger boys, because they see you and they're like, they may not understand a lot, but they know
Hmm.
something is just not right. Um, when we talked about cancer, both of you are HER2 positive, like myself and so many other Bahamian women, but a lot of Bahamian women are not fortunate to be HER2 positive. With HER2 positive, at least you have a lot more drugs and
Yes,
treatment
options. Yes.
available for you. Those women who are negative, and we have a lot of Bahamian women who are negative in our country, they're still developing drugs and things are coming on stream to be able to help them, but they're dealing with a constant battle because they have to stay on treatment pretty much, some of them for the rest of their lives, depending on how far they are. And for those who are listening, HER2 positive, you pretty much have the receptors that are available that can respond to cancer treatment. Because I remember my oncologist saying to me, we want you to be positive because, if you're positive, we have drugs that can help you. But if you're negative, and she said this to me, only God could help you. And that was 10 years ago. But even since then, so much treatment have come on stream and have been available for women. So treatment trials are going on constantly. Thank God for breast cancer in other parts of the world. And so each decade, the treatments become better, more targeted, specialized, and everything. I've lost so many family members to breast cancer when there was not much treatment around. You pretty much cut. You had the mastectomy, and then they tried chemo afterwards and radiation, and most of them really ended up, progressing, and they couldn't control the cancer. But treatment regimen is different today. Listening to both of you, you all started chemo first and then surgery later on. Now, here in the Bahamas, sometimes some doctors are really aggressive to want to say, well, okay, let's do surgery and then try chemo. But, I say to women, get second opinions or get another help or consultation just to know the path that you think you should go, and speak to women who have gone through the journey, because they can advise, they can offer some sort of help, and then trust God to, for the process. Now, going back to that topic on nutrition, I agree with both of you in that nutrition plays a role, but nutrition is not the cure alone for cancer. And I think people need to understand that, especially here in our country. It has its role and plays its part. Let me ask you both, ladies, starting with you, Sonia. Has your diet changed significantly now as compared to then? In that you're an athlete, so you have to consume carbs. I don't know if you have a desire for sugar. I know that is my struggle. How is your diet now as compared to before you were diagnosed?
Well, Manila has changed a lot. Um, like I mentioned earlier, my sister runs a school system. So I pretty much
You need
come
to
here
tell
and
her, take me on as a sister. I can have
Me
some of
too.
them
Help me into.
delicious soups, plant-based soups.
I pretty much come and crash on the pot every other evening when I can. And she does this thing. She posts all the food she's cooking, and then you don't expect it to me. Like I'm gonna come because you posting what you're cooking. But so yeah, so my diet is pretty much it's even better, I think. Um, because now I am conscious. I cheat. I do eat things sometimes that I shouldn't eat, but I call it a
Is
treat,
it
and
is
that
it
would be
you
on the
shouldn't
weekend.
eat or you eat it in moderation?
I eat it in
You tell,
moderation.
when you say you shouldn't eat, did you give up anything in particular?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I haven't
okay.
given up anything in particular, but like you said, moderation. I call it a treat. So if I
Hmm.
want a piece of fried chicken on the weekend, like through the week, I try not to mess up. I eat my healthy stuff straight through my soup, my bake, everything. And then say maybe either Saturday or Sunday, if I feel like something fried, I'll I'll buy something fried. Or if I feel like a piece of guava, I'll eat a piece of guava. But like you say, in moderation. I didn't just stop and just went on the health bandwagon. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if that's something that should be done because you're human and you're gonna have, these different
Cravings and
Cravings.
desires, yes.
cravings. Yeah. So I just believe that if you do things in moderation and if you do half of it 95% healthy and 5%, just a little treat here and there. I think that works perfectly. At least for me, that works for me.
What
Along
about,
with the exercise.
okay.
Right.
What
Yeah.
about you, Patricia?
Well, I have changed my diet quite significantly. I am more so on the vegan, plant-based spectrum than before. So I typically do not consume meat um, for the most part. I stick to the greens, the salads, the brown rice, the quinoa, sweet potatoes, mushrooms, um, all of the veggies and fruits.
All the good
Um,
stuff.
yes, all the good stuff. I've very much reduced sugar, which actually has been, ongoing for me for years. So it wasn't a big deal. How, once I was diagnosed, I was not much of a sugar consumer to begin with. But I would allow myself cake if it's my child's birthday or some special occasion. But I don't, on a normal basis consume
Right.
sweet treats, etc. Um, but it's been working out fine for me. I have actually, even fish I had cut out, but I do allow myself, let's say, salmon every once in a while. I will have salmon with the salads and what have you.
Do you have cravings?
Cravings.
Mhm.
I do not really have cravings. Not really. I find that I just have to be more intentional about having the things that I need to make meals available to me. That's where I'm struggling on a everyday basis. Having my cupboards and my fridge stocked with the things that I eat because of course, well, not of course, but so far my family is not on this vegan trail as I am, and so I still have to cook meals for them, and so that's the challenge that I find, but um, I make it work. And like you, Sonia, I have a mom that
Oh,
cooks
oh,
all those
oh, oh, oh,
the soup. And
oh.
she
No,
trust
that
me,
peas and
she's
grits and
yes.
fried fish.
So
Lord have
she has
mercy.
actually adapted to cooking me the vegetable soups that she would not have necessarily been doing. She would have been doing the dumpling soup and all of that. But yeah, she's on board with my veggie soup every once in a while, and yeah, so I'm enjoying actually. I don't feel deprived. I don't miss meat. I don't need it personally. So it's not a. I don't feel deprived. Um,
Right.
and if I have to, I will. If that's the only thing available, I will eat it.
The thing about it is that yes, you pay attention now to what you eat. You
Mhm.
look at you read the labels. You want to know what's in those products now.
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys in terms of hormones because one of the things I was advised to give up was chicken back then. My doctor said unless you're growing those chicken, and I love chicken, unless you're growing them yourself or you're
So
sure they're not being injected with hormones, I would advise you to give up chicken or minimize chicken. And
Mhm.
I gave it up. I've not had chicken in 11 years. Okay. I don't miss it anymore. However, as both of you know, trying to find foods to eat can be a challenge
yes,
because
totally, especially
you
yes.
need to know how it's prepared or what was put in it. And trying to and like you, Sonia, I'm not like Petrel. I can't become vegetarian or vegan or whatever. No. When I need piece of meat, I want the meat. When I want piece of sweet, I want the sweet. Because people always asking me, I do pay attention to what I eat. Yes, that is important. But I don't call it treat. I still binge. And
Mhm.
Sonia and I are both runners.
Right.
Mhm.
See, I'm not a
So,
runner like you guys. So
right. I
I
mean,
am more on the nutrition side. Y'all need
mhm.
to pull me out there on the running
Yes,
trails.
Dr.
Yeah.
Abby, we need to get her on the stand.
Yeah, because when you're running like this weekend, we if the weather permits, we're running a marathon, and believe me, when it's done, I have to now intentionally say now let me prepare my mind and meals ahead of time because I'll go then I'll eat all the junk
Yeah.
that's available, and then before you know it, you've saturated your body with so much sugar,
Mhm.
and sugar is the
Mhm.
main thing that we have to be careful of. But when we think of sugar, we have to think of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
When I would go for my follow-ups, my glucose level was always higher than normal, and that's the one thing chemotherapy did to me. It was put me into pre-diabetes. But she said,
Mm.
you're runners, so you're consuming carbs, so I could understand. But she said, listen, when you're not, you need to pay attention, and that is something that I try to do. So yes, but you have persons who really go strictly vegan, or eliminate all the different things. I think it's an individual thing, and we all have to look at ourselves and see where you're at, because at the end of the day, I still want to have something. Sonia mentioned that word Gorbaduff. I've minimized that a bit, but hey, that used to be my thing, and so many. I've always been a high carb person. And so I've had to learn to gradually, and this is something I struggled with, not to ask the Lord to even help me, because I don't need salads. I don't need meat. But I will eat the desserts, you know. So for persons, it becomes a challenge. So when you have to suddenly just give up these things, once your treatment stops, and the body goes back to its natural state, and you start to miss and crave. So some people do, slip, but for women, pay attention. And it's not just for people who've been diagnosed with cancer. We all have to pay attention to sugars in our body, because sugar introduces inflammation, changes it, works different organs harder, and it leads to problems. So glucose, carbohydrates, we must pay attention to, and we must read the labels on a lot of these things that we ingest into our bodies. And a healthy lifestyle is always important. Fruits,
Yeah.
vegetables, meat in proportion, and so on, and the dessert in proportion also. But on top of that, exercise is key, and so you have to find some way or some form of exercise. Now, Sonia, are you back to your running mode? What are you doing now that you almost finished
Yeah.
your treatment, but what are you doing now?
Actually, well, every morning that God opened my eyes and I can get out of that bed, I work out. I've been running the side pretty much. I just haven't had a chance to practice for the marathon that you guys are doing on the weekend. Um, I haven't practiced. I know we are having a marathon in November, Bahamas Half, I think it is.
But here's Sonia now. She's still doing treatment, but she ain't practice. So.
I haven't trained. I haven't trained or been on the road that like I should. Only because I know I mightn't be able to run it because my people would be here and I won't be able to run and have that day for myself. So that's the only reason why I haven't been hitting the road on Saturdays and stuff like that.
Let me
But
ask you both question. I'll start with you, Patrell. Taking the medication, has it affected your structure, your bone structure? Because bone loss is a big challenge for women taking those drugs.
Well, definitely, I feel that yes, the treatments have. I mean, only in that I feel a lot of pain in my joints and my muscles. I'm very painful every day getting out of bed. Just even in my daily activity, I just feel stiff and painful. So I would definitely say that yes, the chemo and the other treatments have an impact on my skeletal.
What about you, Sonia?
yeah, I have experienced pain in the legs with chemo, especially with chemo in my legs. When I get up, I have to. I used to not as much now, but when I was having chemo, I would have to hold on, or sometimes it's so painful, I just have to take my legs to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just like shake it, shake it, shake it. So I experienced a lot of pain with my legs during my chemo. Not so much now with the Herceptin, but now I experience sometimes, like when I go to stand up, like, oh, my knees, like, it hurts. And then after, getting into a couple steps and moving, then my legs go back to normal. So
I'm
you
going to move
definitely,
1 second, ladies. So keep talking. I'm going to move 1 second to
okay.
plug in.
So you definitely experience the discomfort in the legs, the pain. And I always thought that, oh, when I exercised yesterday, I went up the stairs, I
Right.
rushed you the stairs. But I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, should
Well,
it be something
that's how
like
I know it's not exercise for me because I'm not
that?
doing much of that. So I know it's the drugs.
Yeah, because
Right.
why I brought that point up, Herceptin in particular does take its effect on the bone structure, your skeletal system. So you
Mm-hmm.
find, and it does cause pain and
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's going to be so important to strength train. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
to use light weights, whether you use your canned soups in the house or whatever, but you have to strength train now, because that is going to become so important. And then as we move into menopause, it's, chemotherapy throws you into
Mhm.
menopause for one. And if you're at that age and you continue on, your skeletal structure, your bone mass tends to decay. So it's so important now for you guys to strength train. Now, for us as running, Sonia, my oncologist told me I needed to give it up because it takes its toll on you. Yeah, but I said, yeah. But when I left the office, I was like, this woman has to be crazy. So I continue. But yes, I can still feel the changes and impacts. So I have to strength train even more so than ever. And not just for us as women dealing with cancer, but women in general. As we move into menopause, strength training is more important. That's one of the most important exercise that we have to incorporate, because our skeletal structure starts to decay with time and
Definitely.
aging and menopause. So when you're feeling that, you need to strength train a bit. But yes, while you're going through the treatment, you're going to have those things. But once you're completed, then you're able to rebound and continue on. Um, there are lots of shout outs to both of you guys, saying, ladies, thanks for sharing. They're praying for you all and for your healing and your process, and they're so encouraged by your testimony. If there are any questions for the audience, I want to say at this time, you can type them so we can ask the ladies specifically if you have any. Now, both of you are still in treatment. Going forward, Sonia,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
will you use your experience to support and encourage others? Because why I'm asking,
Oh,
a lot of times some women don't want to talk about it. Some women go through the journey and they like want to put it behind them. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to know that they've had to deal with it. It's like that was a time in life and move on. But for you, how do you see yourself moving forward with your cancer diagnosis?
well, like you said, a lot of women, they don't want to talk about it, or some women you don't even know unless you've been a conversation with them, and they would be like, "Well, I had cancer a couple years ago." I hope I don't be that person because, like you said, so many women are being diagnosed with this disease, and they really don't have anyone to talk to or to, encourage them, that it's okay. You get the diagnosis, but it's not a death sentence. You can pull through it. And I always tell people, your life is not your own. You go through life, that your life may be a testimony for somebody else. So I hope going forward that my life become a testimony, even tonight, by someone who might be watching and listening to what I'm saying, that you can't listen to the noise in the market. Everybody walk is different. Everybody experience is different. And God forbid, or if you do happens to get diagnosed with this disease, please stay positive. Don't think the worst. Because when you think the worst, that's when the enemy have you. And it's so hard to pull you out of that dark hole, because then you're going to be, poor me, why me, I don't want to die, and all these negative stuff. But stay focused, be positive, no matter what. Once you stay positive, you can't go wrong with your mindset of beating the disease. So I just hope that a lot of us, brown chocolate women like me, white, whatever nationality you might be, you know, this disease, you can beat it. Early detection. That's why we're talking tonight on Dr. Ebby's show. Early detection. This is the month, and I encourage friends and loved ones and family. Let my life be a light for you to step out. And if you ever had a mammogram, please go. find out which places, because I used to get free mammogram before I was before I had insurance, and I would find the flyers of the places, the clinic or wherever is giving out free mammogram, just to make sure. So make that effort. Don't think it's not you, because I thought, hey, I exercise every day. I pretty much eat healthy. Like, I'm not worrying about something like that happening to me, but it did. So you never know. So as you look at both of our stories tonight, I just hope that somebody, if it's just one person, will run away with what we say tonight and be proactive.
Well said, Sonia. Well said. And you, Patricia, because you're in treatment until next year as you
Yes.
continue in your journey. What are you doing differently? What's happening in terms of your ministry and where you are?
Right. Well, you know, the Lord has had me on a journey prior to cancer diagnosis that, uh, looking back now, I can see, like I said earlier, all of it was preparing me for His plans. And from the very beginning, once I received my diagnosis, my prayer continues to be, was then and continues to be, Lord, don't let me waste cancer. And what I mean by that is, I have it, had it. Thank God He has brought me through thus far. It's my story, but now I want to use it for your glory, Lord. And you just show me what that means. How to live that out every day, whether that be just putting me in the path of, and I mean, so many people already in our treatment journeys, He's putting us in the path of when we go for our treatments, doctors, nurses, technicians. And my constant prayer is just let me be your light, just in the way you allow me to deal with this process. I might not even have to say anything, but let your glory be seen in me. And maybe that might be a catalyst for someone to ask, how can you be, so strong and positive? And I can say a word for you. So that is really my ultimate desire, to bring God glory and in this process. And however that plays out, I hope to be an encouragement to many other women, just like how Terry, who was on your show, is my strong girlfriend supporter that you has walked with me through this journey. And I likewise want to be that same supporter to others. In fact, a close friend of mine has since been diagnosed with cancer as well, and I find myself wearing that hat now. Hopefully, where I can support her in the journey, because we are better together. And so that's how I want to be used in this story.
And it's interesting, hey, when you diagnose and you meet up with people, they're young and old and of all different ages, sizes,
Mm,
and so on and so forth.
yeah.
And so, yes, with this being Breast Cancer Month, we have to keep it in the forefront of our people. And to our Bahamian women out there, if you're listening, as Sonia said, please, this is the month, the time to be doing your mammograms if you've not done it before, or doing it when the time comes to do it. And in some cases, if you feel like, hey, something ain't right, ask for an ultrasound. You know, a lot of our Bahamian women, we have fibrocystic, dense breast tissues, and a lot of times things can go undetected. And so, if you feel like, hey, something ain't right, if you're feeling something strange about your body, pursue it and have an ultrasound. And in my case, I never had a lump or anything. All they were saying to me, fibrocystic tissue, fine. So the breast tissues were getting hard. But in my case, I felt a bearing down. And I felt a bearing down when I was running. And I was like, this just don't feel right. And you would never associate a bearing down to breast cancer, but that's how things happen. And then with other diseases, a lot of times we're feeling a symptom elsewhere, and we will not connect it to where it's actually happening. But know that the entire body is connected. I'm an eye care professional, and a lot of times I'm telling the person what you feel in there is connected to something else, and they're like, but that ain't so. the body is one major organ connected with all its extension, and it works together as one unit. So when one part is suffering, you feel it maybe in other parts of the body. So, ladies, what a wonderful, exciting show this evening. Just hearing both of you talk about your journey and your experience. You're still in it. You're still doing your treatments, your protocols, and hopefully a year from now, if we're here and we the show is on, we could have you talk about, hey, where I'm at now a year later in my journey. In fact, next week you don't want to miss the show because we're going to bring a very special guest on who was on the show a year ago, and unfortunately her situation has worsened. So she's going to come on and talk about where she's at and dealing with her journey. And then we're going to have somebody who was younger and just recently diagnosed herself and is going through the process. So there's so many women and sisters out there who are getting that diagnosis on a daily basis. I heard of a very special person that I know of that was diagnosed, and she's gone off to start her treatment. And so every time you hear or you listen, somebody else is being diagnosed. And we need to support and encourage each other. No one is immune. And don't feel afraid to talk about it. I think the more we open up and share, the more people will become a bit easy and less burdened about dealing with cancer and breast cancer in particular. So, Sonia, your final words to the audience this evening would be what? What would be your final words to them?
Oh, wow. What would be my final word?
And you have a beautiful smile, Sonia. Very beautiful smile. So.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Dr. Evie. Thank you. What would be my final word? My final word would be, don't be discouraged. Don't be dismayed. Um, Life is beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. It's a gift from God. And it's like going through a maze of corn in a cornfield. And you don't know what's around the corner, but you keep going, and hopefully one day you would exit, right? Just take one turn at a time. And if you happen to come to a roadblock, whatever that roadblock is, just know that God has given you the strength to overcome any obstacle. Just like how you meet that, He could move that obstacle out of your way just like that. So I would encourage you to not lose hope, not lose faith. This is a faith walk. This is a beautiful journey. Life is beautiful. No matter what sickness might come against you, you can overcome it. And I don't even like to say I don't like to say even if you don't, because I'm not even going there. That's not in my vocab. I wouldn't even go there. And stay positive. Keep on your knees. Keep positive people around you. Don't keep negative energy. You don't need nothing negative to cause anything to to, to come together in your body. That is not good. That is not of God. So, just take one day at a time. Be encouraged. You guys listen to our stories tonight and take it, run with it, and know that, we all will get through this together as a nation, as a people.
Petrel, you will have the final words on what would you say to the listening audience?
What I would say first, ladies that are out there watching and listening to us, is first thing, after this show, go into your bathroom and do your self breast examination. That's what I did last year, this time. And that was an important step in helping me to start the journey to finding out and ultimately being diagnosed. Find out. So that would be my first advice. The next thing would be, I can't divorce cancer from my faith. And so I have to end on a note of faith saying, if you don't know the Lord as your Savior, we don't know. It might not be cancer. It might be some other trial. And if you're not in the trial already, you probably just came out of one or you're heading into one. And God forbid that you would be heading into a cancer diagnosis. But I can truly say, ladies, despite the suffering, despite the just the being upset of being diagnosed with cancer, the suffering and the God has used it to really bring out of me his purposes, and he would do the same for you. You can fight a cancer diagnosis with Christ.
Yes.
If you want to overcome it, with Christ. With Christ in the vessel, the song says, you can smile at the storm. I have truly proven that. And he will prove himself faithful to you during the storm. So don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid. Be strong and courageous. And whether that means, going to the doctor and finding out what you might already suspect, or whether that means you've already been diagnosed and now you need to know how to move on, get Christ in your life, keep him forefront, and he will take you through the entire ordeal in victory.
Amen and amen. Thank you both ladies, Sonia and Petrel, for sharing your story, being open. It's hard to do for some, but you've been open publicly to the world. Your stories will go out there and people will know and hear, and hopefully they will glean something from it and be able to use it to help themselves. Who knows, if it's not a cancer fight, maybe some other situation that they may be going through, because remember, the pandemic is still as real as possible, and COVID is another fight in itself. And most people who have been in that fight will tell you, if it wasn't for God, they don't think they would be where they are today. So yes, we need him. I mean, he is faithful in all of it, and he can help you. And the other thing we have to be realistic about, if he does not heal you physically here, he's still with you, and he has a plan and purpose. So get to know him and walk with him and hold on to him, because I tell people I don't know how they make it without him, but who knows. So I want to say thank you again to our listening audience for joining us on Share Your Story. It's a program that highlights people in our country who are dealing with different challenges, and just to inform and educate and to make the public aware of the different diseases and different challenges that people are facing here in our country. This is, of course, October, Breast Cancer Month. You must pink it up tomorrow, please. Put on your pink and go out and support the disease. Believe me, there are plenty and many persons out there with it. So if you're listening to me tomorrow, wear your pink. Let's make it a pink day, okay? And I want to say special thanks to my husband. I always have to highlight him because he's the one behind the scenes doing a lot of the work for me to be able to do this. And then to my son, he's my technical person. So thank you to Theodore and Theo, both. And this show is brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center. And then I must highlight my staff at Palmdale Vision Center, in particular Michelle. She's, she helps out in so many different ways. And so kudos to you, Michelle, and thank you for what you do behind the scenes, even to help with this, because when she knows of persons, she would tell me and say, maybe you could talk to that one or whatever, and so on and so forth. But to the staff there, to my other two special ladies, Tanae and Jada, thank you both for how you help out in the background. And to the rest of the listening audience, we want you to have a wonderful evening. Continue to practice protocols. You must wear your mask, sanitize, social distance, and be safe out there, because COVID is still rampant. It's not gone anywhere. And let us all begin to practice healthy living and lifestyle. Thank you again this evening. And we want to say to our wonderful audience, be safe. And good evening, ladies. Don't leave. But yes, I will just end the show and then we'll chat briefly. Thank you once again. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.